First things first, let me introduce myself. My name is Will. I am a certified credit union financial counselor. I serve as a senior marketing rep with Corporate America Family Credit Union, or CAFCU. I've been here for coming up on 10 years. I've led hundreds of these workshops for thousands of participants across the country, whether in person, via Zoom. We invite people from our membership base, from our communities, from our partner companies. So if you're an employee of one of our partner companies, thank you so much. And I'm very excited to be here talking today about smart car shopping. And part of why I'm so excited is because I'm joined by Amanda. Amanda, if you want to say hi.
Hello, I'm Amanda. I have been here at CAFQ for 9.5 years, trailing just behind Will. I do work in our consumer lending department, most recently, mainly in underwriting. So I do deal a lot with car shopping, helping our members find the right car that works for them, getting their financing and all that fun stuff. I'm very excited to lend a helping hand in this process.
Nice. That was a good one, Amanda. And I'm glad to have her expertise here as we talk about all of this. I'm actually going to share a personal story as we talk about what smart car shopping is and what it is not. And everyone has to start somewhere. And so my hope in sharing this, I've shared this on previous webinars as we talk about the twists and turns that life can take you on. But my own car shopping experiences have been somewhat limited. And so that's again why I'm so glad to have Amanda here. And in the front end with my current car, to share this is that I was working very early hours at the time. My ex-partner was more involved with shopping and managing some of these financial aspects, so they took my information and they applied for a lot of different cars. And I say a lot of different cars because I had a lot of things show up in my credit report. And again, things I wish I would have known earlier on. And I can tell you that it still worked out for me okay. But they applied for a lot of different things, and we ended up trading in our current car with the dealership that I wasn't too familiar with, didn't know much about. She had picked the car. And with the lending through this, all through a third party lender, shark lender, if you will, I had a 20 something percent car interest rate. I was paying money to pay my car loan. It was one of those where I had to wire money separately to make a payment on this thing. And thankfully, the car was incredible. I'm still driving this car. It's been so good for me. But in some of this financing up front, I was not aware. I was not informed. I was not educated. And these are things that I can own myself. And I was very fortunate in that I went through all of this and then I was able to turn to CAFCO on the back end once I started to get going with my finances right. I was able to refinance. Even with refinancing on my own, at the time we had a credit builder option. I would have gone from 20 something percent interest rate to a 13%, which still would have cut off a ton of money in that interest overall, would have made payments so much simpler. But then I was very fortunate. I was able to get someone to co-sign with me. And then my rate went from 20 something to 2.7 something. And I never had to look back. I set up these automatic payments and I never had to worry about my car, paid off my car, got my title. I've still just been driving this car to this day. Have not had to really worry about it. And that's, again, I'm very thankful for CAFCU because this also got a lot of things going into motion for me. And so that's why I'm so excited to be here today talking about smart car shopping, hopefully giving you the tools so you can avoid some of these mistakes that I've made. And so here's the agenda for how we're going to break all this stuff down today. We're going to talk about that planning piece, the thing that I was really missing. We're going to talk about purchasing itself and how the different ways this can work out. We're going to touch on leasing pros and cons. This did come up in the registration questions beforehand, and we're going to have a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some protective coverages, not with the car itself, but with the financing surrounding it, because you that is something you can also protect just in case the worst case scenario. We're going to talk about paying methods for once you have that loan, and then we're going to do some closing thoughts, give you some updates on CAFCU and things we have going on, and we're going to answer some Q&As, questions, because we have questions from the registration. Thank you to everyone who submitted those, and we're going to use some of those at the end if there's nothing else that comes up during this. But we are going to dive right into this. So, with starting to plan, it really is one of the best things you can do. Instead of just walking into a dealership and having them start throwing numbers at you and start looking at car models, which of course is an option if you're so well versed in car buying. You have every method available to you. But if you're wanting to start from a very secure, self-driven pace, really planning, you want to look at your needs. How often are you driving? What sort of vehicle have you had success with in the past? Are you looking for a larger vehicle, maybe to fit a growing family? Whatever your needs are, this is where we're starting to plan and saying, okay, well, if I am looking for this sort of vehicle, then this is what pricing generally looks like surrounding this. And you want to set a realistic budget. And if you're looking to budget, we did cover beginning to budget at the very start of the year. We have a template available. You can find this on cafq.org/webinars. But within budgeting, as you are financing for a car, you're going to come across that they are going to look at your debt to income ratio. They are going to look, and when I say they, I mean lenders, I mean us. We are going to look at your debt to income ratio. So we're looking at your regular monthly responsibilities financially and assessing then how much you can take on in a car payment within this. And so that's why we want to say set something realistic, look at what you have going on because that's going to give you that window into what you can fit within your budget as well. Or if you are looking for something that maybe is a bit of a stretch against your current budget, then you might be able to adjust other categories within there. Just things to consider because it's not just the new car, it's going to be that monthly financial upkeep within this. And so making sure that you're planning for this ahead so you're avoiding any hidden things at the end of this. And when we say hidden costs, I don't necessarily mean hidden like in a contract hidden. I mean more of things that aren't top of mind when we talk about, okay, I'm going to buy a new car, but let's also look at maybe your insurance is going to go up if you're looking at a fancier, newer, faster car, and that might be a cost that you want to associate, not just, okay, cool, here's my monthly payment, but how this might impact other monthly payments that you have. And so that's why keeping an eye on that insurance or that fuel maintenance, if you're getting a larger car with a different mileage there, you might need to adjust some of the categories surrounding that. Like we talked about adjusting the transportation or like those household buckets within budgeting terms. And so that's what we really want to start looking at of what your general needs are. How does that need then fit within your budget and are all the costs associated with that? We want to avoid really just these impulse purchases. It can be very easy to get caught up in a keeping up with the Jones aspect or a lifestyle aspect with vehicles. It is a very visual thing. It has been a very prevalent measure of success, I think, in our society is the vehicle you drive, how you transport yourself around. And while that can all be very valid and true in all things that we feel, we want to focus on the long-term affordability because what may be an impulse choice today could still then be impacting you a decade later as I'm still as I'm driving my car, right? And thankfully those impulses worked out, but they're just things to keep in mind. We want to make sure that you are looking at the long term because our depending on your needs with the vehicle. Um, if you have these loans, this is within the very normal to pay off these loans, be able to drive these vehicles and get even more value out of them for a longer life, which can be really great. And that's what we hope for you. And so, as we are doing all of this planning, we can look at some tools that we have available. We have Groove Car. This is our car shopping tool. So, if you're on our website, if you go to cafq.org, you're going to see a line of quick links available to you. They might be for our Money Compass coaching. It could be looking at some of our rates. There is a car shopping tool. So, that's the very quick link to get to it. I also have a link in the resources widget within the Zoom. This is what it can look like on the website. So find your next car, and you can start to adjust this slider. You can adjust type, and you can actually start searching for vehicles by this payment method. And so Groove Car for research and comparisons can be a great option. You can find actual vehicles this way, not just playing around with numbers. Additionally, if you're looking for another resource, I'm a huge proponent of public libraries. There's so much available through them. Whether there are physical copies of auto bind journals that you can check out for free with your library card, there are also database access that you may have. I know within my local library, I can go through Kelley Blue Book and their website. I believe I also have a few different links available to me that instead of needing to set up a membership, I can log in through my library card and then gain access. This is similar to GrooveCar, I believe. Groove Car, if it's just available, you may pay for certain things, but just through the credit union, we're able to just have this available for you to look at and to make those comparisons, which is great. And I say online calculator, so we're looking at just again, we want to play with these numbers, make them very malleable to make sure that it works within what you have. And really, again, the goal here is just doing this research before you start with the dealership because there's going to be a whole different set of things that you need to keep an eye on once we get into the dealership aspect or once you move into that working with the whoever the party is that's selling the car. So as much as you can do on your end to be informed, to know what you're looking for, this can be really important. Uh, and so now that we're making this plan, now that we're looking at all these resources, we start moving into the down payment. And with the down payment, I'm going to touch on this, and I'm going to turn it over to Amanda actually. But when we talk about down payments, like with mortgages or home buying, it can be such a large number that it can often seem out of reach to do that 20% that you may look for to avoid the private mortgage insurance. And I'm not here for smart car shopping talking about mortgage things. I'm talking about the fact that if I'm looking at a $200,000 home, a $40,000 down payment at 20% can seem like a lot. That can seem very far out of reach, especially when so many people are on a paycheck to paycheck cycle. When 1 in 3 Americans don't have an emergency savings, suddenly needing to save 40,000 can seem like a lot. There are other options available. If you're interested, you can always talk to our real estate department. We've got mortgage consultations you can find at kafka.org/mortgages, but that's enough of that. Okay, what I'm here to say though is if you look at 20% for a car purchase, it becomes a lot more possible. If let's say a car is $20,000, then we're looking at $4,000. This is potentially a more achievable, attainable number depending on your saving situations. If you're working with a dual income, if you have savings programs in place for yourself, there can be a lot of financial benefits outside of just reducing the lending amount or the amount that you'll need to borrow. There can be other positive financial impacts that Amanda's going to talk about, but within this 10 to 20%, if you wanted to save that, let's say $4,000, it depends on your timeline, but we talk about this in simple saving strategies, again, available on YouTube to watch, but setting up automated savings so that when you get paid, you say, okay, I'm terrible at math. I'm not going to use any real numbers towards this, just to preface this. But if you say, okay, I need to save $4,000, I look within my budget. I know with each paycheck, I have now maneuvered this where I'm going to have $200. Let's say your goal is still a year or so away for buying a car. $200 from each paycheck move into the this automated savings that I have. And so you can set up the savings so it's automatically there. You can set up this transfer so when you get paid biweekly, it just moves into the savings. And you can build up that down payment. You can build that payment separate, that savings account separate than your emergency, separate than your vacation because you don't want it to be like, well, I bought the car, so now I can't go on vacation. That's why we talk about having separate savings. And we talk more about this under those simple saving strategies. But I'm going to turn this over to Amanda now because you can, again, there's so much to cover. We're going to reference some of these things because we are trying to fit within this 30 minutes. So, Amanda, I'm going to turn this over to you for some of the other benefits for a larger down payment. Thank you.
Great. So as Will mentioned, you want to budget if you can make a down payment. One of the big benefits of doing that, you might save on your interest rates. The more money that you put down, the more equity you might end up having in your vehicle. So that's something that is typically considered when during your approval, your pre-approval process, which we will get to, is the loan to value. So the amount that you are financing compared to the value of the vehicle. So a lot of times a down payment of any kind is going to lessen the finance amount, which overall again can give you a lower rate. Sometimes for putting money down, you might get a special discount as well. Overall, less you're financing, the smaller your monthly payments. So those are all benefits. And that can overall at the end, really help you with your budgeting and your savings. Paying less overall in the interest on the loan as well. I can go on and on about on down payments, why they're so important. Another thought is if you're somebody that maybe you have struggled with your credit in the past, you've had late payments, you've struggled making payments, you know that you might not be in the best position with your credit score itself due to these struggles in the past. Having some type of down payment shows that you are invested in purchasing this vehicle. Just like when you buy a house and you put a down payment, you are investing in that. Look at this as an investment in your vehicle and an investment in your future. So a lender will definitely take that down payment into consideration if you do have what we call more colorful credit. It shows us that you really do want this chance to have this car loan and that you're invested in repaying it.
Yes. And as it says, just starting the savings early, the earlier you start, I mean, really the smaller you can start with, if that makes it easier, more manageable. So just whatever the plan is, just start to make that plan, and then you can put it into action using some of these tools or whatever saving methods work best for you. But Amanda, that should be then the pre-approval app.
So as we talked about getting pre-approved, it's an important step. You don't have to go and get a pre-approval before you go into a dealership to look for a car. The benefits though, you might already know your loan terms. You will have a general rate. You might not have an exact rate, but you'll know the rate that you are approved for, the loan amount that you're approved for, a payment range. That's all going to give you leverage when you go into a dealership to purchase a vehicle. They might try and push their funding on you, their lending, which is okay. Sometimes they can offer you benefits, incentives, especially if you have a down payment. But it's always good to know what you're already pre-approved for when you go in there. It's going to help you with your budgeting. It might speed up the process. It can also help you sometimes when you go into a dealership and they ask if they can run your credit, see what they can offer. Your credit might get run, as Will experienced that he told us about in the beginning of this. They might run your credit many, many times. They will send out sometimes your information to other lenders. So you will see inquiries from the dealership, from all these different lenders. They're all going to be contacting you. You get phone calls, you get emails. They all want your business, which is great. But getting pre-approved with your specific financial institution or your credit union, it's one inquiry. You're dealing with your small group of people or one person directly. A lot of, just those benefits of already knowing what you have in front of you when you walk in there. Um, it really helps. And, in the future, if you then need to go back and get your credit run, sometimes that can impact you as well. A lender might see all of these inquiries on your credit report and say, wait, whoa, this is not good. So it could impact your credit in the future for what you might qualify for as well.
And you do have a window of time within applying. So if you, I believe it's within 7 days, don't quote me on it, but the idea of like if you are car shopping, they're saying, okay, well, if this person's constantly applying over the course of a month, there's something going on with this. But if you are at that point, you've done your planning, you know that you're applying with a few select people as you're considering your options, of course, starting with CAFCU and then whatever's next, of course, it's again, you are being a smart consumer in those methods. They don't necessarily penalize that, but this is about controlling what you can control. You know that when we do it, it's the one. If you have other people, but it's when you open it up, you could be looking at extended things. You just want to maintain that hand on there where you can. Um, and really, preventing surprises at the dealership, it's been a common aspect of the car salesman as the epitome of what sales is and what the experience can be. There are good dealerships, there are bad dealerships, there are people who are very forthcoming with lots of experience. There are some people who are doing bait and switch tactics. We included this in the fraud watch. You can see this article within the resource widgets, but where they might be advertising one car in communication with you about one car, and then when you go to the lot and they say, "Oh, this car is no longer available," or was just inherently a different car. This happened to my aunt recently as part of why we spoke to it in this of this is a thing that takes place. And so again, staying informed, knowing what you're looking for is going to help save you from some of these tactics going in with that pre-approval. So there's already a plan in motion as we start to enter into these marketplaces. And so we have a lot of options available to us nowadays between all of the dealerships. You can look at online marketplaces, so you can just as easily get a car off of Facebook, Craigslist, online sellers. I feel like eBay even sells cars back when. There's of course direct sellers and private sales. You could be looking at more collectible things when it comes to those sort of matters. Or there's even larger companies like Amazon who are entering this marketplace. So you can now purchase a vehicle. They have it through Hyundai. I believe they're extending to other makes and models, but it's through Amazon itself. There's no haggle pricing. It's just whatever this is. There's some different stipulations that work with it. And so, with all of this, we just say consider the convenience and risks. So, a more convenient purchasing method, so may increase costs in some areas or leave you with less protections. So if you're going through that private seller or private sales, there are other regulations in place with these other sellers like dealerships, like Amazon, where there are certain things that they are held to, certain standards, and that's typically the case, but there's just more built into it with those protections. But it could be that the convenience of no haggle pricing, having this available through Amazon as a private seller, there may be other costs increase for you to consider. And so that's where we also talk about just doing this research, doing the comparison, knowing that if you bought the car through this method, what this similar car looks like through a different amount, and just making sure that you are comfortable. You know, if you feel like you're a part of this buying process and something has gone off the rails and you're like, I don't know what's happening anymore. They keep throwing all these numbers at me. I'm just trying to buy this car. Um, Reach out to a trusted friend with experience for this. You know, see what their take is. If you are, uh, again, on the fence about something, trust your gut with this because this is such a big investment with a long-term impact. And so you want to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're confident, and that this is happening sort of on your terms with this. Yes, they're selling you a car, but this is still going to be your means of transportation potentially for a long while. And so that's why we say just consider all of these convenience and risks. With leasing, we included this in here because this is more and more prevalent, and we do have a blog, as I mentioned, that goes into this in greater depth. But something we just wanted to talk about, and this is common of dealerships, very wide known fact, is that when you are purchasing a new car from a dealership, the car depreciates in value those first 3 years by a wide percentage. I want to say it's by up to 20% within those first few years. And so when you are then leasing a car, it might be a smaller monthly payment as you compare this to a loan. Uh, but what you're paying for is usually that depreciation. And it might be a smaller payment, but you maintain that payment over the course of everything because there's no payoff within this unless you were to buy out this lease. You would then move into a different lease if you were just to continue in the cycle. And again, depending on your lifestyle, depending on your financial means, this may be a better option for you. There are limitations that come with leases, potentially for mileage, for usage in general, or it might be a little more strict with wear and tear, or more wear and tear could leave you accountable for more later on. But again, if this is what works for you, if this method fits within this, just it's again understanding the trade-offs and that you will maintain this monthly payment when you buy a car, you know, outright with financing, you're going to not have that monthly payment occur anymore and you're going to be able to save more. Again, when we talk about that debt to income monthly amount that as we consider other loans, this is something that again gets added on. It gets added on in perpetuity if you just keep that going within the lease. And so that's where there can be benefits. Overall, it looks like you do spend more money with the lease depending on again that buyout or just if you continue to switch at that time. But you are going to have different options available to you. People do this in different ways. One thing we just want to let you know is that we do offer lease buyout loans here at CAFCU. And so if you are in a lease that you are having such a great experience with the car that you want to buy it, we can help facilitate that. We are We're doing good on time. We've got a few more slides. If you do need to leave early, totally okay. Again, this will be recorded and cars listed on your webpage. I will have to look into that question. So for this new versus pre-owned that we're talking about, and so with these new cars, that's where they do have typically a manufacturer warranty coverage. Again, it can depend on the dealership, what that looks like. With new cars, there are usually latest and greatest for safety and technology, of course, and that's some of these benefits that you go into this. There are typically higher upfront costs and faster depreciation. We talked about when you drive it off the lot, you're looking at paying for that depreciation within those first couple of years. One sort of folksy thing my parents have always said about this is you either are making payments or you're making repairs when we look at new versus pre-owned. Again, if you spend a lot of time in the car, if you are looking for those latest and greatest safety technology features, if this works within your budget, people buy new cars all the time. There are a lot of benefits to this. Financially, there are a lot of benefits with those pre-owned cars. Again, you're not paying for that depreciation, you're paying more accurate towards the value of the car itself. So that's where we get into those lower price points. And it doesn't maintain that fast depreciation that's been going on for the pre-owned or for the new cars. It does slow down in that depreciation of it. And with these pre-owned cars, and you are looking at typically reduced insurance as well. Trying to think. Yes, yes, yes. And again, there's a lot of it just depends on your situation and what you're looking for and that financial place. Pre-owned, there can be a lot of benefits with it in terms of a lower cost to then pay off early with still reliable cars that have just faced that first massive depreciation. With these financing, though, whether it's a new car or a pre-owned car, something you want to look at is financial coverage. So I'm going to turn this back over to Amanda, who's going to talk about GAP and MRC, which are two financial protections for your loans that can help secure your positioning with them should something occur in your life. So, Amanda, I'm going to turn this back over to you. Thank you.
So gap, a lot of confusion to what gap coverage is, just from what we hear back from our members. It's not an insurance product, and a lot of consumers think that it is an insurance product. So let me just say that it's not. It is a coverage, and it is a coverage to bridge the gap or the difference in the event that your car is totaled. If your insurance company does not pay off that balance, then we can file a claim with GAP, and they can potentially pay off the remaining amount. So then you are no longer responsible for a potential remaining balance. When a car is totaled, the insurance company does have their own way of valuing out the vehicle. So that's never really guaranteed that it's going to be paid off. The best way to avoid a situation where you would have a remaining balance is one, if you put down a good down payment and then have a lower loan to value. So you're not over financing your vehicle. You're not paying more for it than what the value was when you at the time that you purchased it. And then of course having that gap coverage. It's typically dealerships, they can mark their price up to a certain percentage, and they get all of that kickback when you take the loan with us. And Gap does follow the loan itself, not the vehicle. So if you were to take the loan with CAFQ and get our Gap coverage, it's a one-time flat fee that we can build into your loan, increase your payment or your term, which it's such a minimal cost that it usually doesn't really have an adverse impact to your payment or your term. We usually only see like a 1 month add-on for it. Ours also has an added protection included in our cost, which is a deductible reimbursement. I haven't really seen that anywhere else. I think it is a specific contract that we do have with our company for this. So what that would be is if you just get into a car accident, let's say a fender bender, and you have to pay your deductible out of pocket. So just to get your car repaired, let's say it's a $500 deductible. We then go ahead and file a claim for you, and then the $500 that you had to pay out of your pocket then goes back towards your loan balance. And the whole thought behind that is, as Will mentioned earlier, is most consumers, they don't have the savings there in case of an emergency. So that way, if you have our gap coverage and you are able to file this deductible reimbursement, you don't have to worry about making your car payment and having that deductible cost at the same time. It can help you avoid being put into a bind that month if something were to happen. And as I was mentioning, a lot of dealerships, if you were to take their financing, you were to take their gap, just something to keep in mind that you usually do have negotiating power with their costs since they are getting so much kickback and they can mark it up. MRC stands for mechanical repair coverage. So that would just be like almost like an extended warranty, right? Um, Really helpful in the event that you're purchasing a pre-owned vehicle. It will help you pay all of the out-of-pocket expenses in case you do need any kind of repairs, especially as a car gets a little bit older. The coverage will change, the cost will change based on the year of the vehicle, make and model, and then of course how many miles you have on it. The nice thing is you usually do have some power in what out-of-pocket costs you have or the deductible. Some policies you can have a $0 deductible, and sometimes it can go up to $1,000 or more, just depending on where you're getting it through. I think our max might be 500, if not 1,000. Don't quote me. I haven't looked at it in
Well,
a little
we have,
while.
I believe we
Uh,
have tiers available for this as well within that
there,
MRC. So you can look at
there
what sort of coverage again that's going to work best for you.
Right, and we have comprehensive brochures that show you exactly what is covered by each coverage, each policy. So you really, there's nothing hidden there. And again, both of these, while it is an additional cost, it is something to keep in mind, outweighing the benefits. And do you have that? Are you going to have that money available if something does happen? At that time, or is it better to pay for something for the life of the loan, but then you don't have to worry about that high out-of-pocket cost at any given time?
Exactly. That's why we talked about this is an investment. This is just a protection for your investment. And again, you can, as we talk about planning ahead of time, if we're able to build these savings, you can plan for the cost for GAP, for MRC upfront. You can pay it all in full. This is something that's been able to be added to the loan in the past. Again, it just depends on how this works, what situation you find yourself in. But great things you're able to prepare for ahead of time that further give you that protection later on. So thank you, Amanda, for sharing about some of this. And so we spoke about this a little bit earlier, and I talk about this in all the webinars because I cannot stress this enough for how great this can be across the board. But when I refinanced my car through the credit union and I started to make those payments, my original payment, I was paying 300 something dollars, plus I had to pay $10 through a wire transfer fee to just make the payment of 300 something. And so what was great with the credit union is that when I got paid, I took my new car payment, I believe it was 230. It went from 300 something to 230 at the time. It could be a little more, but it was basically 115 from each paycheck. And it just one paycheck paid one half, second paycheck paid the other. And I never had to think about it. I never had to move the money myself. These payments kept taking place. And because I was paying every other week, I was paying down the principal balance faster. So I was getting charged less interest overall. And when you're on this biweekly schedule every other Friday, you are going to end up with 2 months with three paychecks. You're going to have an extra payment then each year, is why that says 13 full payments per year. And so then again, you're just paying the car off that much faster. Doing it this way also alleviates, I think, some of this budgeting stress because instead of having a larger amount pulled at one time, you have a smaller amount split. And so then it becomes easier to work with whatever the balance is. And within a budgeting as well, it becomes a lot easier to plan because you know that when these paychecks come in, that amount's already taken out, and then you're just working with what you have left. And so that's why this can be so great. So if you are trying to set up your savings, trying to set up a savings for that down payment within, the realm of what you're looking for. And then that way you already have this habit in place as well when it comes time to pay the loan. Uh, any savings, any loan, this can be a great option. It gets you ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about missing those payments. It's just such a great thing. I can't speak highly enough about it. Any of our webinar recordings, you can essentially see us talk about this. But it's just so helpful, and I just love the simplicity of it and never having to worry about it or create that discipline or motivation. It just happens. And so we're making our payments. And if you do have a loan currently elsewhere that you say, hey, some of these rates are looking really good at the credit union, you guys are offering promotions all the time. I want to refinance through you guys. It can be a great option. It can lower the monthly payments. It really just depends on your score, on the amount borrowed, what's going on. Um, but I'm going to let Amanda talk about this one a little bit more because she helps with this a lot more than I do.
So some benefits with refinancing, say you do walk into a dealership, even if you got pre-approved with your credit union and then you walk into the dealership and you know what, they tell you you have to take financing right then and there. This happens a lot. Otherwise they're going to sell the car to someone else and you love this car and you do not want to lose it. It's okay to take their financing. Just keep in mind that you always can go back and refinance later on. And like I said, we have a lot of members where they buy the car. Sometimes they're not pre-approved with us, but they know they're going to come to us and take our financing anyways. They just had to go buy that car while it was available. So some benefits is sometimes you can lower your rate, lower your monthly payment, and you can typically refinance at any given time. Sometimes dealerships do have a clause in there that if you refinance within a certain amount of time, you might lose out on any benefits that they might have given you, any kind of rebates. So something to definitely keep in mind. Um, but with that being said, typically that doesn't happen. Typically at any time you can refinance. Um, Sometimes if your financial situation might change, you might be able to um, for, or you might need a lower payment, something that we can always look at. Rates might change. We all know rates have changed a lot. It's in the past few years. So if you ever had to take a loan at a higher rate and now you know that maybe your credit has improved or perhaps, the market has changed and rates have lowered. All great things. It's a way to save yourself overall in the life of the loan. You might not save much in the monthly payment, always, but it's always good to look at your rate and what that overall savings is throughout the life of the loan. You might only see a few dollar difference in your payment. Sometimes we save members hundreds of dollars on their payments. It just all depends. And again, where you're at in your budget. So, overall lowering your monthly payment if possible, it's going to free up some cash flow. Maybe even if you're getting a lower rate, you can continue to make that higher payment, get your loan paid off sooner,
Yep.
overall savings there as well. Um,
Always an option.
so
Always a
just
good one.
always just keep in mind any costs. Sometimes there are costs that might be associated. Like I said, if you do take dealer financing, um, just know if they have any kind of fees or charges if you do turn around and refinance within a certain time frame. And if you're ever concerned, you can always reach out to your trusted credit union. And ask those questions and get some information.
Yes.
We do often see people also refinancing isn't necessarily just to lower your payment and your rate. There's also options if you have some equity in your vehicle and you have an unexpected expense come up, or you
Mhm.
want to go on vacation. That's a bad example. Don't take out a loan to go on vacation. But let's say debt consolidation, you want to pay off some credit cards and you have some equity in your vehicle. you could always look at refinancing your car and take out some cash against it if there's equity and pay off your high interest credit card rate. So all things included in refinancing. And again, if you ever have questions or more information, more fine details on that, just give us a call.
And just to chime in on that, in terms of using the car for vacation, for taking out a loan against the car for this, something I would even consider with this, there are some times that we say we are going to do things and then we make ourselves responsible. So let's say you told your family you'd go on vacation with them and that you have set this and this is going to happen. And if you don't have the money because you've overcommitted yourself, this is where, while it may not be ideal, I think this is where we talk about being informed, having options, not leaving yourself in a bind, but saying, okay, you know what? I could put this vacation that I have now committed myself to on credit cards, and I could be looking at that higher rate. And maybe I'll get certain points, but if you're still now increasing that credit card balance that you are paying, you're increasing your revolving debt. There's elements to this that can make that credit card less attractive than if you have a car with equity that you can borrow against, that you know it's going to be a set payment to repay, that you have options within this. Of course, we want you to save and build up that savings, and we talk about methods to do this, but this is an asset. This is something that you have a value in your life, and I think, the less you can do to touch that asset and just maintain, awesome, but it is there if you should ever need it. And as well within refinancing, to add this point too, that maybe it does lower that monthly payment. And so now you free up that cash flow. I know a lot of people who talk about, um, can you save up can you save up while paying down debt? And so you could take that refinance and use that then new monthly savings to start building that emergency fund because you know that you have those funds available within there. And now you're starting to beat that statistics of the 1 in 3. Again, it depends on what your next financial step is, what goals you have, but these can be great methods to sort of move money around. When we talk about budgeting and making sure it really works, we talk about the 3 R's of reduce, replace, or refinance. So it's sort of with car shopping or with coffee shopping, let's say it's the easiest example to give of this. Of reduce, you either lower the amount of times you're getting coffee, replace, you can change where you're getting coffee at to make this a little simpler, or you could refinance a vehicle to give yourself some more money for your coffee budget each month so you're not overspending in that regard. Whatever this works for you, this is just an example we give, and refinancing is a great option when adjusting a budget and finding areas of potentially freed up cash flow. And so let's do some closing thoughts here. Again, it's really just having a plan. We've talked about a lot of different things. There's more you can do, there's less you can do. It depends on your comfortability. There's tools available. And the average amount of time that people spend doing research on car shopping has increased with all the advent of this technology and letting us do all of these searches and comparisons, and with fair pricing now and transparency surrounding pricing. That's where we're starting to see more from Amazon, from these dealerships, really break this stuff down. It is a new age for consumer ownership of that buying process. And so I think really lean into that, know what you're comfortable with, and really, again, protect your budget. I say know how this goes against your other financial obligations because this is how you really start to build out that financial picture. And as you're making plans for other milestones, that this is not, that this doesn't become a roadblock on the way, that this just fits into the plan, and that there's different ways to pay for these things, and different methods surrounding this. And so it's really, again, finding what works for you and just sticking to a plan. And if it's not working, making adjustments. I think that's the biggest thing too. People get stuck in their finances, and there's so many ways to manage this stuff that it's really just finding what method is going to make this as simple, as engaged as you need to be within your bigger financial picture. And so that's smart car shopping as we talk about empowering financial success. It's a lot of putting the tools in your hands, putting the knowledge in your hands. That way you can make these informed decisions. Uh, we do offer, if you are looking to get a car and you're not a member with us, we do offer promotions all the time. So keep an eye out on our website. If you go to kafka.org/rates, we make it very easy to see where our rate ranges are. I think this is one of the better things about us as well. When I look at other competitors, it can be very difficult sometimes just to see what a basic rate is. We make it very easy to click on this on our front page. It's right at the very top, cafq.org, and you can see rates up there so you can see those comparisons. We do take 0.25% off qualifying APR on all vehicle loans, signature loans, fixed rate home equity loans for new members within the first 60 days. And we also have different promotions at different times. So if you go to kafka.org/current promotions, or if you work for one of our partner companies, you may have a different promotional rate available to you as well. So definitely check that out. Um, we're trying to help you save if we can, especially within these first 60 days for our new members. We just have this available. We also have a share certificate offer going. This just started up. We've got these two new ones. If you bring $500 of new money into the credit union, then that's the starting point for either of these. It's a 60-month share certificate at 4% APY, or it's an 18-month share certificate at 3.75. You can find more details at kafku.org/earn, kafku.org/earn, and that's going to have more details surrounding our share certificate. This just started up. Again, as rates are starting to drop, this is a great way to lock in some savings for that extended period of time at a higher rate than traditional savings and checking accounts. So these are really great options if anyone has money that they are looking to set aside for that down payment for the future. This is a great way to do it. Finally, if you've got questions about stuff we've talked about today, we are going to have the Q&A in a second, but you can also set up a Money Compass coaching session. These are with other certified credit union financial counselors, such as myself. These are free. These are unlimited. You can set up 15-minute phone calls, 15-minute video chats, talking about budgeting, car buying, building your credit, managing debt, whatever these core topics are, we're here for it. We also now have mortgage consultations available if you're interested in the home buying process, whether you are just starting out or a little bit further in and you want to talk to one of our representatives. Also free, also available, kafka.org/mortgages. We've got so many great things for you on our website. You really got to check it out. We've got so many tools going, but this is a great one. I've had many a session with people. Really, it's your time to talk finances, so it's whatever you're looking for. And that's everything I had for the day for the slide deck. And so we're going to move into some Q&A. Thank you so much for the nice comments. There is going to be a survey following this. So again, let us know your takeaways, if there were things that you wish we had focused on, or if there are other things you're curious about, if we cover this again in the future. Whatever it is, just let us know. We're here to help. These sessions are for you. And so if you're looking for something specific, we'd love to speak to that and meet you there. Amanda, do you have any closing things before we move into this Q&A?
I don't.
The silence was deafening. She's like, we talked about so much. I
Sorry.
couldn't think about
I'm
covering anything else. Okay. Well, again, we've had a great time. Next month for October, we're covering identity theft defense. I believe we're going to be talking about scams that that scammers and fraudsters try to employ. And we're going to talk about some basic things you can do to protect yourself, regardless of what scams they're running. And that should be a good session, especially in today's day and age with everything accessible. So we're going to talk through why these touch cards are so great for your security, and it'll be good. So that'll be next month, third Thursday. You can find that again on kafka.org/webinars. And I hope to see you there because I love doing these sessions and it will be great. So let's move through some of these Q&As. And if anyone does have questions for the session, they can also type them into the chat or into the Q&A. Let me double check. I don't think anything came through the Q&A. Nice. Everything's going through the chat. All right. So one of the questions we got was, will there be an emphasis on used cars? As we said, pre-owned cars. Um, Again, your car, whatever you look at, is going to be whatever makes the most sense for you. There are financial benefits to pre-owned cars as a credit union trying to empower your financial success. We would be amiss to not, if I'm using that word right, where we would be ridiculous to not talk about pre-owned cars as a way to save money as we talk about long-term affordability. And again, if the cars work, and that's the biggest thing, if they are able to maintain, then really pre-owned cars can be a great way to save for the long term.
I would say 75% of the car loans that we do are pre-owned or used vehicles.
Fantastic, because I would not know that. So it is just a major focus, apparently for the credit union. And is it better to get dealer financing or go pre-approved? We spoke to this, but going pre-approved can certainly help you avoid some tactics and lets you know where you're at, what you can afford, and gives the purchase power back in your hands. Um, Dealership may be offering something even better than what you had through pre-approval. There may be stipulations or extra benefits that go with that. Again, it's just reading those fine terms, knowing what's available for you. I think with pre-approval, aside from just the knowing the financial thing, it is that peace of mind. So much of financial wellness, I truly believe, is that stability and the lack of stress. And so going in, knowing that you're set no matter what, just really makes that purchase process easier. Um, what is the credit score I should have to purchase? So with the credit score, we talk about this in credit made clear, which I covered with Amanda, which you can also find on YouTube. But within credit, FICO, Fair Isaacs and Company, has different scoring models. So FICO scoring model 8 is what's traditionally used with consumer lending, but they may have different scoring models specifically for auto lending. And when you look at the three bureaus against Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, we look at TransUnion typically when it comes to auto buying. Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong on that. She says, yes, TransUnion is the one.
Yes.
Yes. And so if you are looking at your score on a either, I don't know if TransUnion actually has an app for it that shares the score, but if you're looking at Credit Karma, if you were looking at another place that may share your TransUnion credit score, keep in mind something to look at is if they're showing you the FICO score or if they're showing you the Vantage Guard score. I believe that's correct. I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but basically, there's a scoring alternative to FICO, and it may not be the traditional one that dealerships are looking at. It may just give you a representation of the score, but it may not be the score itself because they may be factoring things differently. And so that's where I say something to keep in mind as we look at what your credit needs to be. And if your credit is not the best and you still need to purchase a car, that's where, again, looking at different promotions that are going to knock off those percentage points can be great, or having the initial plan and knowing that you are working on your credit to refinance later. But Amanda might be wanting to say something about it too.
No, that's what I was thinking the same thing, just financial planning and that's where, having your down payment could definitely help as well.
Something I realized we didn't talk about within the session, but I was going to mention with the different buying methods. So when you go dealership, private seller, marketplace, whatever it is, you can take your car, take the potential car to your local dealership, depending on all of that travel and what that looks like for where you're buying it from. But taking it to a local dealership is absolutely within your rights to say what's going on with this car from a trusted source that you have that can give you the insight into here might be some additional costs that go through this. Um, can you get a loan to purchase a car from the credit union? I'm happy to report, yes, you can. Yes, we are here to help with exactly this. Really, a lot of your life milestones. So whether it is purchasing a home we've talked about, buying a vehicle we've talked about, you can look at fixing up a home, doing renovations. Even within our personal loans, you can use personal loans for, I've seen people use these for wedding celebrations. We see them sometimes for vacations, using we're really trying to meet your milestones wherever you're at. And so, whatever your goal is, let us know what you're saving for and let's see what we can do to really help you get there. But yes, purchasing a car, absolutely. And here's our last, we got another. Do you finance if buying a car from private owner? Amanda, do you want to speak to this one a little bit? I like this question.
Yes, that is a great question. We do call that a private party purchase. We do offer them. However, we do have very specific guidelines for private party purchases or buying through a private owner. You would have to be local to one of our CAFQ branches and be able to go in there with the seller so that they can sign off on the title and the bill of sale and all of that good stuff. So that is something that we have recently changed, but again, it is an option. If you're not local to one of our CAFQ branches, I still urge you to get in contact with us if that's something you might be interested in. And we can always look at different options. And that might be one of those scenarios where you would refinance, where maybe we can't do it for you, unfortunately. But you are able to get the financing, unfortunately, with another lender, but then we could always look at refinancing it thereafter. But again, I'm not going to say it's an absolute no. It's just we look at the entire scenario just to make sure that it's in our members' best interest. We do end up having some titling issues, though, unfortunately, with those, which is why we did change that.
And it can vary. And when we say private, this could be very modern private cars. They could also be collectibles. We offer vehicle loans for like RVs, motorcycles, boats. I believe we have boats in the mix.
Yes.
Um, and with just some of these ins and outs, they come with different guidelines, and it's a twofold protection because it partly protects you, the member, within this purchase, making sure that we've got all these ducks in a row for all of that. But it also protects us as the credit union because we are member owned, because it is your money that is used to run this credit union, right? Everything, it's not for profit, so the profit gets put back in so we can offer more lending options for your fellow employees, for your fellow members, for your community members, whatever it may be. This is where we also need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in taking in those quality loans so we're not putting ourselves at risk adverse where then other members are paying for that offset cost for loans that potentially may not have that protection. And that's something we consider within these, of course. But people helping people, we're always looking at how we can help you achieve whatever your goal is. And we do have a lot of different options. And yeah, it's just a different process to go through, but it doesn't mean it's a no by any means. It just means there's different things we need to look for within some of these purchases. And
Oh,
so the other question I had for this final question, then unless more come through, was that the person thought it'd be better to pay for a new car with cash in full. However, they've heard that things have shifted and dealerships would rather you take out loans, and that's how they make their money. Um, with this, I lean back on it's whatever's going to work best for you. If you have the cash in hand to pay this in full, and that is an option for you, and that doesn't offset your budget, that doesn't leave you in the lurch for needing cash on hand for emergency savings, then that can be a great option. Again, if it's covered in full, you no longer have to worry about a monthly payment within this, and you have that equity in the car to borrow against. And so that can work if you want to go through financing again with the credit union. It's very, you know what you're getting. We're going to talk you through all these different points. With dealerships, you may run into you're trying to understand some of these other line items that they have in there that you may be paying for. But yes, there can be a lot of financing that goes to the dealership. It's that emotional math problem of money that we talk about. What works within your monthly? Does this make sense for overall? Could you be getting a better deal elsewhere? All things to consider, but I think the important thing is that you have options available to you. I think that's the best thing I could wish for someone for financial success is that they have these options. If you have that option to save it all and pay it all at once, awesome. If you're able to get financing through a dealership, if you're able to get financing through the credit union, I'm just happy that you are able to secure funding to get the vehicle you need, and we'd love to be a part of it. But again, it's really just as long as you have tools available to you, you just have to make sure that the math works out against your other financial goals, against your current monthly situation, and that you're not putting yourself in potentially a rougher situation just to meet the needs of another seller because it's going to be your car, your life, your investment. And that's why I keep saying you want to make sure it happens on your terms. I don't see other questions coming through. We did have some questions about life insurance, which we do offer through True Stage, previously CUNY Mutual, and this can be found on our website. Some more of those fun perks and hidden things we have going on. But otherwise, we're going to call it for today. Thank you so much for everyone for attending. Again, look for this on YouTube. We're going to have this link available, and hopefully, we'll see you next month for identity theft events. And please fill out a survey. Let us know. Amanda, thank you so much.
thank
And
you.
yeah, hopefully we'll get you on another webinar next year. I think we're slotted out now for all the co-hosts, but it's been great having you on this one and Credit Made Clear. So thank you.
Thanks, Will.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody.